So thank you very much. I'd like to start traditional and unceded territory of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh. I am so glad to be here in Vancouver today at the Waterview, and we see where it gets its name, YMCA, with my friend and our fantastic MP for Richmond Centre, Wilson Miao, and with Heidi, and some of her amazing team of early childhood educators. I myself am a mother of 3, and I can tell you that spending some time with just the extremely wonderful, happy, centered children who have the really good fortune to be cared for here was really inspiring for me. And even more inspiring was seeing the early learning and childcare workers who work here every day doing their jobs. I love my kids so much, and I love being their mother. But I certainly had my share of frustrating moments during the early childhood years, moments of actual pure sheer terror. And just seeing the hardworking educators here, how beautifully they do their job. I just want to start by really thanking them. The work that they do is really, really difficult. It is really, really important. It's literally the foundation for our whole world. The early years of a child's life are the basis for everything that follows, and the kind of amazing education and support and love that the children here are getting is going to serve them in good stead for the rest of their lives. So thank you very much. All to the great, great child care educators who I met. Really, they do a phenomenal job. And you can see it when you walk into the room. You see it in the smiles, the curiosity, the affection, the openness of the kids who are here. Best part of my week, for sure. So to everyone here and to all the early learning and childhood educators across the country, let me just say thank you very, very much. Your work is very, very important. I respect it hugely, and we're going to keep on working so you get paid more money, which you deserve. When we first announced our plan to make high-quality, affordable childcare a reality across Canada, it was welcomed by a lot of people, but it was also met with skepticism. And I understood that skepticism. It was justifiable, because Canadian politicians had been making promises for nearly 5 decades to establish a national system of early learning and childcare. But when we announced our agreement with the government of British Columbia in 2021, and it was the very first deal we did in Canada, a Canada-wide system of early learning and childcare became more than just a plan. It became more than just a promise. It became a reality. Today, fees here in British Columbia have been reduced by an average of 50%, saving families in this amazing province an average of $6,600. And BC is on track to reach fees of just $10 a day by 2026. Some facilities, including the one here at Waterview YMCA, have done so already. Well done, thank you. And as the Prime Minister announced last week, our government is now providing an additional $625 million to support provinces and territories to invest in the infrastructure care more accessible in underserved communities, including rural and remote communities, and high-cost and low-income neighborhoods here in BC. This includes by funding the efforts of provinces and territories to create spaces in communities that currently just don't have enough of them. This new infrastructure fund will make a real difference in communities throughout British Columbia, and it will help ensure that more families have access to the affordable, high-quality childcare they need. And I have more good news for people here in BC. Just yesterday, I announced that the new grocery rebate has started to arrive in the bank accounts and mailboxes of 11 million Canadians and Canadian families. For an eligible couple with 2 children here in BC, the grocery rebate is providing up to an extra $467. For an average eligible senior, it means an extra $225. And for an eligible single Canadian without children, the grocery rebate is providing up to an extra $234. Now, I know that this support will not make up for all of the impact that inflation has had on Canadians. Everything. But for the people who need it the most, for the most vulnerable people here in BC, and for millions of people across Canada, the grocery rebate will provide some important breathing space at a time when people really need it. I also know that this is a challenging time for some British Columbians who are trying to keep up with rising mortgage costs. That's why in our spring budget, we announced that the Financial Consumer Agency of Canada would be publishing a code of conduct to protect Canadians with mortgages at a time of elevated interest rates. Yesterday, the FCAC published a guideline which details the support that banks and other financial institutions should be providing to Canadians who are struggling with rising mortgage payments. Specific mortgage relief measures could include waiving prepayment penalties, not charging interest on interest, and waiving internal fees and costs such as mortgage renewal fees and internal costs associated with late payments. The guideline published yesterday is about protecting Canadians by ensuring that financial institutions treat them fairly and provide them with the tailored mortgage relief they need, all with the goal of helping Canadians who are really struggling to. Enfin, j'aimerais faire part de quelques réflexions aux habitants de la Colombie-Britannique. Le Canada a eu la plus forte croissance économique parmi les pays du G7 au cours de l'année 2022 et notre PIB réel a augmenté de 3,1% au premier trimestre de 2023. Quelques 900 000 Canadiens de plus travaillent aujourd'hui qu'au début de la pandémie et nous avons récupéré 128% des emplois perdus au cours des premiers mois de la pandémie par rapport à seulement 117% aux États-Unis. Cela inclut un taux d'activité presque record de 85,4% en mai pour les femmes canadiennes dans la force de l'âge, soutenu pour notre système pan-canadien d'apprentissage et de garde de jeunes enfants abordable. Une économie forte avec une abondance d'emplois bien payés. C'est une bonne nouvelle pour les travailleurs de la Colombie-Britannique et c'est une bonne nouvelle pour les familles d'une nation à l'autre. Inflation in Canada fell to 3.4% in May, down from 4.4% in April, and down from a high of 8.1% last June. Inflation in Canada is lower than in the United States at 4%, lower than France at 5.1%, lower than Germany at 6.1%, lower than Italy at 7.6%, and lower than the United Kingdom at 8.7%. Our economic plan is fiscally responsible, and it is working. Inflation in Canada is now the lowest it has been in nearly 2 years, and while we're not there yet, at 3.4%, we are getting close to the Bank of Canada's inflation target range. We're getting close to the end of what has been a really difficult past couple of years. And we're building an economy that will continue to grow and create great careers for people here in BC. We all have the remarkable good fortune to live in Canada, the absolutely best country in the world. And It's really true, Wilson, isn't it? And I have never been more optimistic about the future of our amazing country than I am today. Thank you very much, and I'm happy to take your questions.
Thank you, Deputy Prime Minister. We'll just hear a few words first from the CEO of Waterfront
Oh,
YMCA.
sorry. Sorry, Heidi.
It's totally okay.
Come on over.
Wonderful. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Heidi Worthington. I'm the President and CEO of YMCA BC. I am just honored to be in the presence here of the Honourable Chrystia Freeland, Canada's Deputy Prime Minister, and the Minister of Finance, and also to welcome Wilson Miao, MP in the Richmond Centre. We're really excited to be here today in BC, which Deputy Prime Minister Chrystia Freeland mentioned was the first province to commit to the Canada-wide Early Learning and Childcare Agreement. And I'm delighted to do that here at the YMCA of BC. Most people know that the YMCA is known for our fitness and community centres. In such a broader way than that. The YMCA is dedicated to fostering belonging, providing people of all ages, stages, backgrounds, and abilities with inclusive spaces where they can live healthier lives and connect. Supporting the goals of both the provincial and the federal government in rapidly expanding spaces across the province. Today, we operate in over 90 centres, providing 4,500 spaces for early years and childhood-aged children, from the Fort St. John to the Sunshine Coast, and we'll be adding another 800 spaces by the end of 2024. We operate over 1,400 $10 a day childcare spaces, supporting making childcare more affordable for families. And the impact would be impossible if we didn't have our valued and skilled childcare professionals. Childcare educators are at the heart of every childcare centre, and it's through their passion and unwavering commitment and dedication that children grow. They develop critical skills, and they're enabled to reach their potential. We know that growing early childhood educator workforce is essential to reaching our goals, and we're dedicated to supporting the government's work and finding innovative approaches so that all children and families who need childcare have access to it. Through the work of all levels of government, childcare professionals, providers, and community partners, we're thrilled to be a part of building a national childcare system so even more families have access and they can reach their potential. It's my honor and my thanks to have you both here today. It's been quite a thrill for us, and for the children, thank you for spending so much time with them. That was really wonderful and so genuine. And I know at this point in time that we would like to pause and open it up for questions.
All right. Thank you, everybody. We'll now move to the press conference portion. It'll be one question and one follow-up. There's a microphone over there for journalists wishing to ask a question. Alors, nous allons procéder à la conférence de presse. Ça sera une question en suivi. Il y a un microphone juste ici pour les journalistes qui ont des questions. Merci. Thank you.
Hi. Check. Question from CBC. First question is, how were you able to convince Doug Ford to increase its share of funding for both, excuse me if I'm butchering this, Stellantis and VW? And could we get this answer in both English and French, please?
Sure. Well, look, thank you very much for the question. Today is a great day for Canada because today is the day that we have announced our conclusion of a deal supported by Canada in Ontario with Stellantis, and that we have announced that Canada and Ontario will be sharing the investments in Stellantis and VW, 2/3, 1/3 in those two projects. This is really important because right now, as President Biden said when he visited the House of Commons this spring, the world is at an inflection point. He described it as the kind of change that happens once in every 4 or 5 generations. And I absolutely agree with him. This is the year when the world is building the clean economy. And this is the year when it's going to be decided which countries in the world have the industries and the great paying jobs that are going to build that green economy. Our government was absolutely determined that Canada get its fair share of those green jobs. Frankly, I think we should get a little more than our fair share. And that has meant that our government has had to step up, and we have. The Stellantis deal announced today is really important because, as you pointed out in your question, Ontario has stepped up on both Stellantis and VW and is paying a full third for each of those two projects. I'd like to personally thank Premier Ford for his contribution. He and I exchanged happy text messages this morning. We had some middle of the night phone conversations to get there. And when I say middle of the night, I really do mean 1:30 in the morning. And, you know, the Premier and I have a good relationship. He understands the importance of industry, of manufacturing, of good paying union jobs for the future of Ontario and the future of Canada. And he understood that to make these projects happen, it was going to be necessary for Ontario to do its part too. So I would like to really thank him for having that vision, thank him for the partnership. I'm really, really glad that we got this done. Alors, aujourd'hui, c'est un important jour pour le Canada, pour l'Ontario. On a annoncé ce matin les investissements en Stellantis et en VW, et on a annoncé que l'Ontario va partager les investissements dans tous les 2 projets avec le fédéral. Je voudrais sincèrement remercier le Premier ministre de l'Ontario, Doug Ford, pour l'étroite collaboration et pour son décision de collaborer avec le fédéral pour nous permettre de conclure ces 2 importantes ententes. Ces investissements vont garantir le futur industriel pour le Canada, notre futur dans l'économie verte qui est en train d'être construit dans tout le monde. Et je suis très, très fière de ce que le Canada, l'Ontario, nous tous ensemble avons fait.
Follow-up question?
Not a follow-up question, but a different question. Between 2016 and now, finance spent $2 million on ads on platforms owned by Meta. What were these about, and where will you put that money now instead?
Thank you for the question. And I want to start by saying I was also in touch this morning with my colleague, Minister Pablo Rodriguez, just to talk with him about the very important work he is doing with the tech giants and the very important work he is doing to ensure that tech giants, American tech giants, pay their fair share. Before I was elected as a member of Parliament, I was a journalist for a really long time. And in my career, I saw the hollowing out of newsrooms in Canada and around the world. And I know firsthand the impact that has on our society, on our democracy, and on our communities. The work that Minister Rodriguez is doing, that our government is doing to ensure that the tech giants pay their fair share and support Canadian newsrooms is absolutely essential. The step that we have taken with regards to advertising on Meta is absolutely the right thing to do. And I do also really want to thank and commend the other entities in Canada that have stepped up and joined us in this effort. Alors, ce matin, j'ai aussi échangé avec mon collègue, le ministre Pablo Rodriguez, pour discuter son travail très important avec les géants du web. Notre gouvernement est absolument convaincu que c'est essentiel que les géants du web américains paient sa juste part parce que nous comprenons l'importance du journalisme pour le Canada, pour chaque communauté, pour chaque province dans notre pays.
Thank you. Next question. Prochaine question.
This question is related to Stellantis again. What types of business opportunities do you expect to result from the Stellantis investment and plant going in? And will the federal government provide financial support for some of the industries that might be tied into the battery, such as technology, cathode development, and so on?
Okay, thank you for the question. Together, the Stellantis and VW investments and investments that we have been making through our green industrial policy mean that Canada today is ranked second in the world when it comes to electric battery manufacturing. That is a huge accomplishment. It is hugely important for our country, and it's important for today, and it will be even more important for the future. So these investments are important because they are directly going to guarantee jobs in Windsor, jobs in Brampton, jobs in St. Thomas, but they're even more important because the ecosystem that they are going to create, an ecosystem that will stretch from the critical minerals and metals mines in our country, through the processing of those critical minerals, to the manufacture of batteries, to the production of electric vehicles in Canada, to the creation of charging stations in Canada. So, what we are saying as a country is the green economy of the 21st century is being built today. I really want to emphasize how there is a window of opportunity. It's open now, but it's going to close. The world's big companies are making their investment decisions right now, and that is why our government has acted. That is why we have created an entire suite of green economy tax credits worth together about $120 billion. And that is why for these two specific investments, we have stepped up to ensure that they happen in Canada. It's going to have a huge stimulative impact. First, of course, in the communities where the production will happen, but across our entire economy.
I see. And just a follow-up on a different topic, the Senate Finance Committee is calling for an urgent update on the government's policy on incentivizing and the commercial value of businesses, and it's saying that the economy is too resource-based. I'm just wondering how you would respond to that.
I'm not, well, let me just offer a high-level answer there to say, I actually think that Canada should be proud of our natural resources. I think we are very, very lucky as a country to be richly endowed in resources, from critical minerals and metals, to natural gas, to lumber, to the rivers that create our clean electricity. It is, I know that Canadians can sometimes worry about our history as the hewers of wood and the drawers of water. But today, as the world is stepping up to build a clean economy, that natural endowment and the expertise we have as a country in mining, in forestry, in hydro, these are excellent, excellent skills for our country to have. So, point one, I would push back pretty strongly against any suggestion that there is anything wrong with our strong natural resource sector. I'm proud of it. Canadians should be proud of it. You know, right now, as the world is looking to build a green economy, there is a global race on for precisely the natural resources that Canada has in such abundance. So we are very fortunate. We're fortunate to have the resources under the ground, and we are fortunate to have the intellectual capital, the people above the ground who know how to take advantage of those resources. So that would be my point one. My point two is, I absolutely believe that Canada should have, does have, and needs to continue to build a diversified economy. Your first question was about the Stellantis VW investment. I absolutely believe that it is a strength of our country that we have a strong manufacturing and industrial base. That is something we need to build on, and we are absolutely determined that we take the core capacity, the really skilled people we have today, and make the transition to a green industrial economy. That's what we're doing. That's what today's investment is about. And then finally, and look, I'm here in BC, so I have to talk about this too. Canada is really great and is really strong in the technology sector. We have some absolutely fantastic world-beating tech companies. We have some absolutely fantastic world-beating pharma companies, many of them based in this amazing city. So yeah, Canada has a diversified economy. It's something we should be proud of. It's something our government believes in investing in.
Thank you. Next question.
Dobry den.
Oh, dobry den!
Minister, it's Al Cohen from Global News. This is for my colleague Mackenzie Gray in Ottawa on Stellantis. How concerned are you the only way you're going to get major companies to set up shops in Canada is by giving them billions in subsidies like you've done with Volkswagen and Stellantis?
Look, the IRA changed the rules of the game. The huge tax credits that the U.S. put on the table for companies have been tremendously attractive to American companies, to Canadian companies, to companies around the world. Canada already had a very strong green industrial plan prior to the IRA, but when President Biden put all that money on the table, as a country, we had a choice. We could either say, okay, we accept having our industrial base being hollowed out. We accept the idea that Canada will not be a player in the green industrial economy, which is being built right now. We accept the idea of investment being sucked out of our country to south of the border. That was not an acceptable answer to our government. We knew we needed to act, and we did. And that is why you saw in our budget in the spring the most significant suite of industrial policy measures any Canadian government has put forward. Taken together, we have a green industrial strategy worth $120 billion. That's because Canada needs to be in the game. And the good news is we are. We are attracting huge investments. We're attracting the VW investment. We are attracting the Stellantis investment. TD Bank, after we tabled our budget, took a look at the various incentives that Canada had put together, and they said we are now competitive with the IRA. Rystad, a European green energy analytical firm, says that Canada is either first or second when it comes to our attractiveness as an investment destination for clean tech and the green economy. So we have put the measures in place that we need to have, and this is about building the economy of today and ensuring that we have the economy of tomorrow. So I absolutely believe that, you know, there was a question for Canada. Were we going to step up, or were we going to choose not to do that? To my mind, the right answer was absolutely clear. We have stepped up, And you see the proof of that in the investment announcements that are being made day after day after day. And I have to tell you, this is just the beginning, because we are finalizing the regulations on a number of the tax credits. The Clean Growth Fund is beginning to do its work. So we are really just at the beginning of a significant wave of investment into the Canadian economy, into Canadian industry, into Canadian mining.
And Minister, just quick follow-up. It's getting very hot out there. So just quickly, can you share any of the details of your agreement with Stellantis? Maybe just sort of a quick summary of that.
Sure. I think the key points are that on Stellantis and VW, we have agreed to a 2/3, 1/3 cost sharing with Ontario across the two projects. I am really grateful to Premier Ford. He was directly involved. He was very hands-on. He and I talked about this a lot, and I'm really, really glad we got to the finish line. The incentives are capped so that Canada's liability is not unlimited. And the incentives will only be in force so long as the IRA is in force. We recognized that major set of measures changed the rules of the game, and we recognized that Canada had to step up. But were those measures in the US to be withdrawn, then the deal would no longer be in place.
Thank you. Next question? No? Okay, that concludes today's press conference.
Okay, I have to say, дякую дуже.
Merci tout le monde. Thank you, everybody.
Nie ma za co.